in for Baccarat, and that goes in! Hugo Baccarat gives Flint City a 3-2. Buckley, the ball falls to Buckley. 1-on-1 with Etheridge. What a save!
Welcome into the first ever MSN All-State Media Day for girls soccer. Jonathan Turner alongside Dan Stachura.
Ball comes in, a good head! 1-0! Shot, another save from Etheridge! Rebound, and it goes in the back of the net. The Bulldogs up 1-0! Burzma, but then for Vlasma! 3-0! Stewart Heights with a shot! Upper 90 and in!
Effectively today here on the Michigan Soccer Network, we are launching our new division of player recruitment videos.
Mario Canoe now finds Stock. Finds Stock's got a left-footed banger. He shoots it! It's in! The Red Hawks equalize!
I'm joined now by head coach of Notre Dame Prep High School in Pontiac, Mr. Jimmy Stachura. How you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I am well. Welcome back to the Michigan Soccer Network. Not only are you the head coach at Notre Dame Prep, you're also the prestigious Division III chair for the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association.
Yeah, prestigious is an interesting word to use, especially after the last week where we're looking at all these teams playing each other and getting results. It was really a tricky one. So prestigious is not necessarily always the word that I would use, but we'll take it today.
No worries. So, hey, you're off to a 6-0-2 start. So a really good, strong start. You look at the teams you face so far this season, one that really sticks out among all of them as of right now is that Rochester game. It's a matchup where, you're talking about Division I versus Division III. And while some will argue that there's not a huge difference between the divisions, I would say that's not true. You don't have the same enrollment as Rochester. So anytime you can get a victory or a tie against a ranked opponent like in Division I, that's a huge win for your program.
Yeah, it was really a statement game for not only the program, but actually for the players, to me, and our coaching staff. Graduation has hit us pretty hard the last couple of years. We graduated, I believe it was 19 kids in the last 2 years. I know 16, 17 of those kids had chances to play in college. A lot of them decided not to. And so when you're replacing as many as we have that have been here for so long, it can be a little bit tricky. And we kind of had that one circled. I mean, there was some other games through the line that were really tough, but that one was kind of circled. And the way the game played out was just crazy. I mean, 4-4, it really felt like nobody played defense. And to be honest, I don't think that was defensively the problem. I just think that both teams have quality players on both sides. And it was a real entertaining game to be a part of. Getting a win against a bigger school like that is good. We're used to playing those schools. We play a lot of those schools through the last 15 years I've been there. And I mean, at the end of the day, it was a really good win for our program and kind of opened up the staff's eyes to what we could potentially be. So, yeah.
It's a solid win, and again, you're looking at the season for what it is. I mean, you're undefeated, and when you start, and I go that that there's a lot of season left, right? And me and Dan were talking about this earlier on our MSN Live show. We talked about how if you were to ask me at the beginning of a season, what is the perfect season? Well, it's undefeated, right? That's like every coach would say undefeated would be fantastic because at the end of the day, end of the last game of the season, that means you're a champion. So I'm not going to ask you that question because I probably know the answer to that one. But being undefeated is a big deal. And, upcoming Friday here, you've got a matchup against a number 11 ranked Trenton team that is very good. We saw them ourselves here this past week against Grosse Pointe North, and they have a good team.
Yeah, they're really a good team. Very well coached. Very organized. They have athletes. They've got some kids getting ready to play at the next steps. Always a hard one. We play them every year. I really enjoy playing that program in particular just because they are competitive. They're a division higher. And with our program and their program, there's nuances to which both of us do that are different. And it's good to see a program that's a little different than ours in how they play and some of their characteristics. So it's always a good one. We've been talking about keeping that 0 in the loss column being a very important thing. Yesterday we won. We beat Genesee Christian and we tied our best start as far as undefeated and unbeaten starts in Notre Dame in 15 years. So 6-0-2 is the best start we've ever had without a loss. And we're going to try to build on that again on Friday. But we also, I think, understand that every team that we play is going to be a little different, and we have to make sure that we are adjusting to those. And Trenton will be a tough one. I mean, we talk about training here in the next half hour, some of the things we're going to have to do to get better at, and in order to be a little bit more competitive in that. And I mean, when you look ahead, you got Trenton and you got Oxford, and down the road you got Troy, you got Berkeley, who's playing really well, you got Frankenmuth in Division III, who's having an outstanding season. You just have a lot of obstacles to keep that 0 on the board, but we're looking at it one at a time. Super cliche, but it really is the truth. We're not even looking at the playoffs yet. We still have tons of soccer to play in a short 3-week or 4-week span. So yeah, we're ready.
I know from my conversations with you on a personal level that you have a lot of humility about when we talk about your coaching style and about how you are. And kind of, I think you tend to, hey, you know what, I'm surrounded by really good players. You don't put that on yourself, at least from my perspective in our conversations. But I do truly believe that you, Jimmy, that with your abilities as a coach, that you are a separation factor between talent that you have at your program or a lack of talent, and you make up for that with your coaching abilities to get your teams prepared for these matchups. And I do believe that to be the case with you. I've known you for a long time. You're a student of the game, and I do want to give you some credit there because I think you deserve that credit.
Yeah, thank you, man. I mean, every year you grow and you learn a little bit more about it. You know, one of the guys I coach with always says it's better to be a good person than be a good soccer player. We try to put that into the kids, and by trying to create relationships with those kids and get to know them off the field, get to know what makes them tick, helps you become a better coach to try to figure out how to motivate and how to get kids doing the things that they can do to surprise themselves sometimes and help their teams. And this has been thus far this season one of the most fun jobs I've had because the kids are really good. Our expectations were still pretty high, just different expectations, right? And normally, like the last couple of years, it's been okay. Let's get to a state final, right? And this year, we're just like, hey, let's get through the regular season, see what we're like, and then we can figure out the second set of goals. And we know, again, there's a tough road ahead. They're handling it very well. We've asked some players this year that have returned to do some different things. And a lot of that comes from meetings with myself and the staff and those players. And I'm fortunate to have a really good staff as well with Adam Spinks and Matt Mandarino, been around forever. Great administration with Betty Rubel and Aaron Krause as our ADs. An awesome trainer. And I'll tell you, athletic trainers don't get enough background and enough applause from us a lot of times. But Chris Polsinelli is a great trainer, helping keep the kids on the field. And it takes all of those things to be successful. And if there's one thing I've learned over this, feels like a million years that I've coached, without those things, the coach can only do so much. So in the end, we're the ones that take a little bit of the brunt when things are going bad. And we're also the ones that get a little bit of the pop when things are going well, but it takes a village, so to speak. So, yeah.
No, it does. I mean, obviously, you know this. You won a state championship back in 2016, a shootout victory over Forest Hill Central, the first one in program history. You know that in order for you to make a playoff run to that magnitude to get there, and you'd been there before in a final. It's not like you're a stranger to finals, but everything has to just fall into place. It's just everything just, and I'm sure if you look back on it at some point in time, you're like, you know what, that's when it started to click for us. But
Yep.
can you pinpoint when it started to click for you in 16? You're like, man, this is special.
Yeah, it's a super important moment. There was actually two of them. We played Bishop Foley, I believe, in our second, maybe third game of the year in a absolute blizzard, missing Rosella LaTurco, who had a miss because she was on spring break, and two other players due to injury. And we tied them 1-1. And it was a game that I felt we were completely in control of. A goal got scored against us. We responded, scored a goal back, and then just weren't able to get it. So it was a 1-1 tie. Flash forward 2 weeks later, we play Marion, and we play at Marion's Field on the grass, which is really small and just a very difficult place to play against a really good opponent. And we lost 1-0 on a bounce that just happened to bounce to the wrong player, Elena Eckert, who scored a goal, and 1-0 victory for them. And like, we're sitting there, and it was like seriously like being at a funeral. I mean, they were so upset, no tears, but just like quiet. And Celia Gaynor, who was on that team, was the first one to speak, because I asked him, I go, so what do you guys think? And Celia goes, coach, she goes, I really felt like we could win. This is the first time in a long time I really feel we could win. And then you flash forward to, the Catholic League final, which we thought we were going to get the chance to play them, and they lost to Regina. You win that one. And then you flash forward again to the districts, and you have to go through such a hard district. And as you're winning all these games, you start to really do believe that this might be the year. And then obviously we get to rematch against Marion in the semifinal and win 1-0 in a real tight contest. I mean, showed a lot of character. And you get to that final, and even that day was the craziest day I've ever been involved in soccer, with, out shooting a team by quite a large margin, not scoring goals. They get a bounce that goes in the goal. You get one with 40 seconds left on a free kick to tie it, and then go to penalty kicks and literally have to put a right back in goal to score penalty kicks. And when all this is going on, you look back and you go, yeah, it was just our time, right? And I look at that team and I go, that's a really good team, but other teams probably had a really good chance to win it too, and it just wasn't their time. So, after a while, you look back and you go, yep, there's going to be one moment this season that's going to tell us, maybe Rochester was that moment for us. Maybe it'll be down the line. Maybe it'll be this Friday. But we're looking for those moments. And when those moments come, we want to make sure we tell the kids, these are the ones that are going to tell you what you're going to be like in the toughest moments. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, and we talked to a lot of coaches, and we're going to continue to talk to a lot of coaches, and you can almost, I think I've heard it before many times where you're saying, hey, the team that won that championship was not our best team that we've ever had, right? It just, everything seemed to kind of fall into place. And it's not so much just about like what the team is doing. There's the outside forces, right? There's the calls by the referees. There's, all those things. The ball has to just bounce the right way. It's like, everything just kind of aligns, and then it just all kind of works out in your way. And you hear that story time and time and time again when it comes to championship teams.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I've been fortunate to be around a lot of really good teams. Our 2013 team that lost in the state final was one of the best ones. I thought, to be honest with you, the team that we had the year that COVID canceled the season might have been the best top to bottom team that we're ever going to have at Notre Dame Prep. I mean, we had kids that were, Atala Gemelli played at Alabama this past season in college, one of the top 7 teams in the nation. And she was a 2-time player of the year in the A-10 prior to transferring. She was on that roster as a senior. You had all the kids that played in the last couple of years for me that played in state semifinals and all that, all ready to be impact players as freshmen. And I really thought that one was going to be it, right? And at the end of the day, maybe this year's team is that team. 2 years ago when we were in the state semifinal losing in Pens, I thought that team was destined to win because they had gone through so much with COVID and all that stuff. And sometimes it just doesn't happen, but those bounces go. Seen it on the girls' side with penalties, seen it on the boys' side with penalties, with bounces, with craziness over the last couple of years. And at the end of the day, you just keep going and you laugh. It hurts for a little bit, but then you laugh when you come back the next season. You're like, that's why you're doing this. So you continue to go through it and you continue to try to prepare the next group and hope those bounces do go your way.
Yeah, no question about that. So Jimmy, I'm going to give you 2 last questions here. This first one, that we're going to ask is in relation to, you talked about goals, you talked about expectations a little bit as far as the season and whatnot, but you mentioned this is the first time in your 15 years at Notre Dame Prep that you've, undefeated to this point. And you'd mentioned that, the goal is, hey, we want to continue this streak, even though it might be a tall order. The goal is to continue this streak for as long as you can. With that being said, what are the other goals that you and the team have kind of set for this season? Maybe not necessarily tangible like championships, things like that, but maybe team goals that you'd be willing to share with us here and our viewers.
Yeah, we talk with all the kids during the season a little bit about individual goals, because I think everybody says team, but there is going to be some individual goals that some of these players want to get. I have a couple players that are really good players turning from last year's roster, and in talking with them, trying to set goals that are, number one, realistic. Because I think sometimes girls go, well, I want to score 40 goals. Well, that's really hard. Scoring 20 right now is hard with the competition that we play, and not having a league and having to play independent. It actually works to our advantage, because I think It prepares us better for the state tournament, but it doesn't always give those kids the numbers that they really achieve. So getting them something and making them understand that, like, this is just a parameter. We want to try to get there, but we don't necessarily have to get there to be successful and have a successful individual season. So that's number one. Number two, we really talk a lot of times about the four groups on the field, and it's the forward group, the midfield group, the defending group, and the goalkeeper group. And we really want to forge bonds between those four, because when you have, especially in years like this where numbers aren't as big as they normally are, and we have a lot of returning players that kind of are trying to mix in with the new players, you really want those position groups when something is going weird and you have a defender maybe sick that day, or you have a goalkeeper that pulls a muscle and can't play. You want the other person to be ready to go in. And a lot of times it can't be just the coach telling them, hey, you have to be prepared. If your teammates and your quote unquote line mates are there with you, walking you through some of these things and really encouraging you in the training aspects or in video when we're watching video, that helps those things. So we really try to build within. And then on the last thing that they do, every girl on Notre Dame Prep gets a soccer sister. It's generally not somebody that's in your class. It's generally somebody that you don't necessarily socialize with. Sometimes it's seniors with sophomores. Sometimes it's, returning players with not returning players. Everybody gets one, and they set like kind of parameters for how they want to treat each other through the year and how the two of them can treat everybody better through the season. And it's been something they started prior to me there, and it's been really successful as far as building camaraderie and team unity amongst the program. They bring like gifts and candy to the kids before the game. Like, so the seniors will come and bring in to their soccer sisters, a candy basket or tropical smoothie or something like that, just to kind of say, hey, thanks for the hard work, going into a game week. And it's a really positive tradition. And again, helps to set that culture. So then when the soccer side gets hard, you have somebody to lean on, because as we know, the soccer side always gets hard. So, yeah.
Very, very cool. And this last and final question, you'd mentioned tropical smoothie treats and some candy that the players share. Is there? I've been noticing this trend now on social media where a bunch of players they like put a bucket in front of it, and then they just start pouring in a whole bunch of different candy into one bucket, right, into one big bin. Now, being that I don't eat sugary treats anymore, what are they doing that? Number one. Number two, if they aren't doing that, is there a treat or a candy that the team loves to eat, before or after games?
Yeah, I haven't seen them do that yet. They might do it on their own, but I haven't seen that yet. They are a very big fan. I mean, and this I think goes for pretty much everybody. Anytime they open up the bag from their soccer sister, it's generally like sour worms, gummy worms, or Sour Patch Kids, or Sour Punch straws. Like that kind of candy seems to be the big thing for my group. I mean, like I enjoy those too. So there's a lot of sharing that goes along and a lot of begging on my part, but that seems to be the one for that group. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I mean, hey, you can't go wrong with a nice watermelon, Sour Patch Kid or strawberry. They're all home run. The blue raspberries are good too. You can't go wrong with any of that. But Jimmy,
right.
thank you very much for joining us here today. We appreciate it. You got a big game coming up here on Friday against Trenton. You got Oxford next week. Again, continue to roll on there with your undefeated streak. And we wish you and your ladies side very much success here the rest of the way.
Thanks, man. And thanks for all you and Dan do over the MSN. We really appreciate promoting and really pushing the sport out to places that it hasn't been before via videos and interviews and things like that. We appreciate it on our side.
Well, thank you very, very much. We appreciate you guys, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, man.